Diogenes, welcome to the stream, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You got my name right.
Did
Most people
I?
butcher it.
Oh, dude, I
Yeah,
don't
you got it.
I don't know if you're watching the stream, but I probably spent 2 hours today trying to figure out how to pronounce your name. So, what is
Yeah,
it?
I mean it's rough. It's so my mom's like American, like Irish American. My dad's Argentine.
Mhm.
They were like arguing about names. Like my dad was like, "Fucking, we're gonna do Lautaro," and my mom was like, "I like Oliver." Both pretty like terrible names objectively, and somehow they met in the middle, and they were like Diogenes sounds good, which is Greek, and it's not anywhere near any of what like they've grown up around. But yeah, that's my name. I it was rough when I was young because no one could pronounce it, but now it's pretty cool.
Yeah, like the substitute teacher in fifth grade, like gets on your name.
Bro, I went into a history class once and I went into the wrong history class. And the like professor was trying to berate me. And he's like, "What's your name?" And I normally say Dio because it's just easier. And then I was like, it's a history professor. Maybe it'll cut me some slack. Big mistake. He had written a book about Diogenes. And so then I got stuck in that class for like 30 minutes because this guy just would not shut up about, oh, well, what do you think about this thing that, Diogenes said? And I was like, bro, I know like two things he did. I don't know anything else.
That's awesome. The physiognomy on that name is awesome. I love it. I thought it was just your Twitter name, honestly. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
everyone's like, what's your gov name? And I'm like, no, that's my government name.
That's awesome. Dude, welcome to the stream. We had OX Law
Thanks
come
for having me.
on probably, I don't know, Law came on like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. And I was like, this guy's unreal. So I texted him after and I said,
Yeah.
hey, who do you recommend I get on? And he's like, you gotta get this guy on. Number one recommendation was to get you on. So I'm hyped to have you here. I appreciate you joining and being flexible. Do you want to start with like a quick intro into who you are and kind of what you do?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I mean, I do business with, I do business with Law. He's an absolute beast. I've known him for like 3, 4 years.
Oh.
Like been trading with him. I actually went on a trip with him. I do a trip to Argentina every year, and he actually hunted a boar with a sword while we were there.
No.
I swear to God, he killed a boar with a sword. I've got the photo.
Like on his feet, like
And
chased it
after the,
down?
yeah, yeah. So we had dogs and everything. We were on horses, and then he got off the horse with a knife and stabbed this boar. And after that, we hadn't done like I was like I was running stream at the time, but like I was going to start working on new stuff, and I was like, "Yo, we should work together." Like that was the moment where I was like, "I need to work with this guy more seriously." Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess my background, I started crypto like 2016, 2017 personally. I was living in Argentina. Argentina is one of the only countries in the world that doesn't have an official Apple store. There's a bunch of reasons for that, but basically it's because you have to bribe the customs officials to get anything into the country. In the U.S., it's illegal to pay bribes, even in other countries. It's a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, and it's such a small market that Apple was kind of like, we're not going to deal with that. So I would bring phones in, I would sell them at like a 50 to 150% markup, and then I'd send the money. Argentina had aggressive capital controls at the time. That's changed with Malay. I would send the money back to the States with crypto. Initially, just Bitcoin, because you're making so much, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin moves 10%. And normally, it would move 10% in my favor. So instead of making 50%, I'd make 60. Um, and then I did that, but I didn't really think about it too much. And then me and my buddy were kind of making Minecraft servers for people. And we got this influencer guy, like, we were charging $250 and we thought that was nice for like a week's work because we were kids. And we got this influencer guy being like, hey, we want, to launch a token. We're like, well, that sucks. We don't make tokens. This was also like 2020. This was not like the current cycle at all. And he was like, well, I'll pay you each 10K. And they were like, okay, and I guess we do tokens now. And 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 we figured it out, and it was like only a weekend worth of work, and then sure enough, 10K in the bank. And that was just such a light bulb moment for me because I was like, oh wow, Like I had just finished an internship at Fortress, which is an investment bank, um, literally unpaid at the time. I'd learned so much, and then I felt like I was decently good. I'd learned a lot about how these kinds of companies work. There's so much stuff that you just can't even learn online for some of these things. And then I wanted to, I was like I was still in high school. I was trying to find, things to do, and all the banks were like, "Nah, sorry, we can't do anything." And here's this guy paying me 10K. So we actually started doing kind of meme coins on contract for a while. We actually wanted, all of this was like at the time when like all these, Shiba Inu, Cash, SafeMoon, all of these things that people might have heard of were launched on a platform called DXL. And it was really badly designed. Like as an example, say you were raising 1,000 ETH. First of all, there's like no bonding curve or anything, but you would say you wanted to raise exactly like 1,000 ETH. If you raise 999.9999 ETH, the sale wouldn't finish, and it would be such a small amount that's left over, it wouldn't meet the minimum requirement for the contract. So you'd have to manually send the remaining amount of ETH. And then if you accidentally sent slightly more, it would also not finish, and you'd have to wait like 3 days, which in meme coin land is forever. You're basically dead. So we wanted to make a platform that was different. And we did this like fully doxed. We didn't realize the legal implications at the time. And we got like a kind of demand letter from the SEC as like a 16, 17-year-old saying like, hey, like we can't prosecute you because you're minors, but you should probably like stop what you're doing. And that was my college app. So I kind of chilled out after that. I started working at a market maker as an intern at Amber in Singapore. I stayed on as an intern for 3 months. I really liked, my boss Steven, who's now at Athena, my boss Austin, who's still at Amber, and I just learned so much, and I stayed on for a while. And then, but my pay was pretty bad. I was getting paid like 2K a month. So there's all this like decent information, and I was learning so much. I just started trading on my own, and eventually I started making way more on my own. So I just left Amber, started a trading firm. We would kind of take over crypto companies, more like DAOs. Our first kind of takeover was a protocol called Fei. So for a little bit of context, we actually also shorted Luna. That was like a fundamental. Yeah, that was
How
a
much did you make on
fundamental
the Luna
play.
short?
I didn't have a lot of money, so I made like 20K, which for
Fire.
me was a lot of money. But I like fully round trip most of the money I made from meme coins. I kind of think that's like karma. So I like, that was how I made my first million, and fully round tripped it. Um, but I was like, okay, my biggest learning from the meme coin stuff was that almost everything in crypto is a fork. So I was like, there's going to be a bunch of other companies like this. And so we also shorted Waves, and we shorted some other protocols. And that went well. And then we found one that actually, we did the math, and instead of being, severely overvalued, there was actually, $2.5 for every dollar value, or like you could buy $2.5 for a dollar. You just would have to basically get the team to shut down or restructure, or like do some like stuff. Like in this case, literally the company had like, I think 400 million or something like that in just cash sitting, not even on like Aave.
And who is this?
This was called Fei.
Okay.
Like
I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is
so
though.
yeah, I mean, it was like an idea for an algorithmic stablecoin similar to like Frax or Maker, but a different design. It just wasn't really working. It was kind of like, it would like basically try and trade the market, and it was like top blasting and then selling the bottom continually. Like it was just a capital destroyer. But if you could get them to like restructure or shut down, they could, and the team was like clearly like checked out. There was also a lawsuit in San Francisco. So I was like, okay, I made a proposal for them to shut down. And sure enough, like a month later, they shut down, and it was like 100%, 150% return in like a month during a bear market. And so we did that a lot. We're most well known for, we started actually suing people. Like we would find out who anons were and actually take them to court if they weren't listening to token holders. And if they'd already said explicitly like, oh, token holders govern this, right? And then, we would have some cases where, 80% of token holders were like, hey, you should do this. And then the guy was like, no, they just kind of mentally think this is all their money, right? And so we took a Chinese guy to court in Southern District of New York. We were the first case outside of Florida to serve with NFT and Discord, and for the court to approve that. We won the case. He actually got arrested in China because we were able to find a Chinese national who had lost money. Is still right now in a Beijing jail. We're still figuring out like getting the payments back and everything, but like that's kind of the stuff we would do. That's some background, I guess.
Jesus, man. That's insane lore. And how'd you become a Thiel fellow? Like what?
Yeah, I mean,
What does that even mean?
Yeah. That's a very fair. This sounds like bullshit, but I didn't know what the Thiel Fellowship was. I kind of had this idea in trading. After we started doing the DAO takeover stuff, we realized that we started doing a basis, which is like what Athena does now, which is just either having BTC and then going short on the perp and earning a lot, on the funding rate, or at the time we would go short on like DYDX and early Hyperliquid, although Hyperliquid was very small at the time. Get paid a lot of funding there, and then cover it on Binance or Bybit, where the rate to go long was like less. Like you would get paid 30 to 50% to go short on these dexes, and you would only pay 10% on the centralized exchanges. So if you run that on even like some very minimal leverage, we were earning internally like 300 to 500%. And so, but the like annoying part was managing all the accounts and everything. And so I was like kind of intuitively like, at the time I thought like the best way of doing that was an exchange. I eventually realized that that was the wrong approach, but we were like, okay, there's an interesting product here. I kind of pitched a buddy of mine who ended up being my first angel investor. And then he told me I should talk to the Thiel Fellowship guys. I didn't know what the fuck it was, honestly. I got on the call with the interview people, and they were like, "What do you know about the Thiel Fellowship?" And I was like, I don't really know anything. I just know that this guy I respect told me that it's pretty cool and there's cool people and that they give you a free 100K, and that sounds nice. And also it like requires you to leave college. I kind of need an excuse to go to my like Latino dad and be like,
Uh-huh.
this is why I'm like I have to leave college. And I think they liked that. I wasn't trying to game it. I didn't know what it was going in. They found they kind of felt like I was like being fully authentic, and that I guess they were bullish me. So Thiel Fellowship has technically 0.3% acceptance rate, um, and like 6% of all the founders end up being unicorns. With all this, I found out like after, right? I actually got the call from the guy to like tell me that I'd gotten in, because we find out before it goes public, and I hadn't saved the guy's number from Thiel. So I just hung up on him like 3 times, like unknown caller, and then I get a call from my investor being like, "Yo, pick up the fucking phone." And then the guy's like, "Yeah, you're in. Save my number, you fucker." And that was that. But I mean, to your question on like what is it? Yeah, I mean, you get a free 100K. Thiel kind of, it's a big stamp, right? Like as
Yeah.
a kid, you don't really have a track record. So Thiel basically being like, I think this kid might be onto something is a big
Uh-huh.
deal. You get to meet a lot of very smart people in the space. Um, and just like in general, smart people, and also in the space, like Vitalik. I haven't met Vitalik, but like Vitalik's a Thiel fellow. Givas from Succinct is a Thiel
Uh-huh.
fellow. We have a group chat of like basically all the crypto Thiel fellows minus Vitalik. Um, just, just, but like, yeah, it's quite nice. And that also helped with like hiring, because I could go to other young people who also don't have a way of like being like, what have you done? Because a lot of this like crypto stuff, it's kind of like up in the air for most people. And that really helped with hiring.
That's a movie. Have you ever met Peter?
I've met him briefly. He's like exactly the way you would imagine him. He's like he's very intense. He has a very intense gaze. He did an event in LA where all the Thiel Fellows were invited, and he said something at the time that was like kind of starting to get consensus, but wasn't super consensus, which was that this was like early 2014, or sorry, later in 2014, that distribution was what was going to matter in the next year. Like the tech kind of has like improved a lot, but the actual distribution, getting people, is going to be what really matters across verticals. And that's basically all he said. He just answered a bunch of other questions. Sam Altman was at that like event. Brian Armstrong was there. Sam Altman, yeah, I like went back to my boys. I had a margarita. I was like, this margarita is like amazing. And like none of my buddies responded. I was like, what? They're being so weird. And then I looked to my right and it's Sam Altman. I'm like, oh, I got it. Yeah, I mean, also even like Brian Armstrong was there. I'm probably forgetting other people. There
Oh,
was a midget, or sorry, little person actor who was amazing, and I like the guy from I'm forgetting the movie, not Tyrion, but like the second most famous like
yeah,
actor. I
okay.
got a photo with him.
That's
It's
awesome.
pretty nuts. Like all these like people that he surrounds himself with.
Whoa. Um, that's crazy, Lord. Thanks for the background. How does he feel about crypto, Peter Thiel? He's like pro.
I he's very libertarian. So he got he really likes Bitcoin. I mean, he's printed on Bitcoin. Joey, who runs Founders Funds crypto arm, got them to buy a lot of Bitcoin basically at the bottom
Whoa.
on size, like something like like hundreds of millions, I think. And now they're up like I think it's like 5x at current prices. Um, and so that's great. On the personal side, I think Thiel bought even earlier. Actually, my dad made one of the first crypto custody platforms, which ended up being acquired by Coinbase. So Coinbase's institutional product. It's called Sapo, XAPO. It's still operating internationally. Just the US like customer list was bought. Like for context, the customer list was like Mike Novogratz originally started buying crypto through these guys. And like a lot of other, even like at one point, Bill Gates had bought Bitcoin via them, and then Warren Buffett went to him and was like, "You're stupid. This is bullshit. It's rat poison," as he called it. Yeah, Warren Buffett actually gave my dad at this conference in Sun Valley, which like if you look up all of these billionaires, they have like all these like really crisp photos that appear on Google, and they have like a little name tag that says like SV and then whatever the year is, and that's the Sun Valley conference. And he gave my dad up on stage when he was trying to pitch Bitcoin to all these people a big shirt that said Bitcoin is rat poison squared, and this was at like BTC 1K. So and he still has the shirt, which is awesome. Um, yeah,
Damn. So you just got like movie genetics. I've heard crazy stories about the Sun Valley thing, by the way, at conference.
yeah. I mean, it's where YouTube was acquired, right?
Really?
Like, there's like, yeah. Like, I think it's also where like the WhatsApp deal happened, where Facebook decided to acquire them. It is like it's an insane mix of people. They do like one event where everyone's mixing, and you're like you get to go as a kid if so my dad was kind of like the crypto envoy there. I think he still is like the only crypto guy that goes, and he would just at the time for him he just had to kind of like sell Bitcoin to these guys. um, and as a kid you get to do all these activities, including like ask Jeff Bezos questions every year, which was sick. So you got to learn from Bezos. The best advice that he ever gave once was like, I was like very much in the like school kind of American mindset of I'm going to plan out my life, the next 5-10 years of my life, which looking back is like objectively stupid.
Yeah.
I can't plan probably the next 2 months. And so I was like, what's Bezos, you're this important guy. What's your plan for the next like year? And he's like, I don't have plans. I have goals. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I want to just continue to improve user experience. And I want to experiment with, um, I want to keep. He said something about Kindle. He said something about space because he was just starting Blue Origin. And initially, I was kind of like, that feels like a bullshit answer. And then, like, more and more time passes, and I'm like, wow, that's actually a really good way of looking at things. Yeah, it's a sick conference. I mean, Sam Altman also went this year.
Whoa. That how do you get invited? Do you have to just be like some fucking
It's arbitrary. Like, you don't actually know if you're getting invited again every year. It's like you get it told like a week in advance.
no. Oh, and you just
Um,
like have to go.
yeah. So like they often like churn these guys. There's like repeats, like Warren Buffett's always there. Michael Bloomberg's kind of like always there. Bill Gates basically always goes. Um, the Tim Cook kind of upper management of all these tech companies are always there. But if you're like slightly lower level and they're bringing you kind of on like the interest factor, um, it's it can be more delicate, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of arbitrary. If they're just like one year, they're like, hey, I guess what you're talking about isn't interesting anymore. You could never go to the conference again.
Wow. That's insane. Um wow, you have some crazy lore. Okay, to ask you about something that's happening right now, relevant that I think you posted about. Can you explain if you want to
Yeah,
talk about it, you could if you don't want to, we can move on. Can you explain what's happening with the Hyperliquid stablecoin ticker? How closely in the weeds are
yeah.
you on this?
I'm not crazy in the weeds. I mean, I'll caveat with one thing. I think a lot of people are slightly misunderstanding um, how important this is, in the sense that um, the say like to take an extreme example, say like me and you decide to make a stable coin
Mm-hmm.
and somehow we win this fucking proposal.
Mm-hmm.
We don't suddenly get $3 billion in like TVL or like assets on our stable coin. Like Hyperliquid would have to like auto convert. It's more so being like the native quote asset for like spot markets. Is maybe, yeah, it's not clear if Unit would opt into that because Unit has the choice to do that. But it's more you get to be officially the like the official stablecoin of Hyperliquid. Maybe in the future that turns into like you're also the margin asset
Got it.
for all the perps and everything. But right now they've been very clear that that's not what this proposal is about.
Got it.
It's just for the ticker and being considered the Hyperliquid stablecoin.
Got it. So it's people are over
Yeah,
indexing for how important it is.
yeah. I mean, people I guess assume that eventually it'll lead to that, but I'm not sure. I mean, the main controversy about it, I mean, when I posted, Athena and Maker or Sky hadn't made proposals yet, and I thought those were the most interesting proposals. They now have launched their proposals. Both of those are quite interesting. In my opinion, the previous proposals, Paxos has done a proposal. There's like a team called Native Markets, which there's a lot of controversy about because there's allegations that Jeff from Hyperliquid is somehow involved in in that team or like is overly close. I don't know what that means to
Uh-huh.
the founders or like invested in the founders. And so the people were complaining about like it's kind of like an inside job. But Jeff, as he always does, was very adamant. He was like, "Look, I'm not even voting. Like maybe I'm involved. Who really cares? I'm not voting. I'll vote with whatever wins, basically." Which I think is a very cool approach. The Paxos push got a lot of attention, partially because Paxos acquired Nucleus, which is a Hyperliquid project. So a lot of their like team is very much pushing that Paxos becomes the stablecoin. Paxos just doesn't really have a lot of liquidity. It's not a used stablecoin. A lot of the other proposals aren't really used. Athena and Maker, I think, are the only like really serious ones, besides like maybe also like a Circle, because just all of those um, projects have such deep liquidity. You're not really going to have like a cost of like having those projects be the native
Got it.
stable coin.
Got it.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus like the other ones is like
yeah, yeah.
kind of it's a really one-way street in that it would really help them. It wouldn't necessarily be super helpful for Hyperliquid, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I saw people were freaking out about the Athena proposal because they offered to like bribe voters that went their direction or whatever. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's been done
I
though
kind of
so
liked
many
it, by the
times
way.
in
I was
crypto.
like into it.
I, that's like a sick proposal. Like, also, by the way, if you guys vote for us, we're gonna give you money.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sick. Actually, in the Fey takeover, um, we did that too. Like, in order to get certain proposals over, we made it like a kill switch. So we said, or we didn't necessarily, but a third party. It was a very complex case, but there was Olympus and Frax had lost some money on Fei's lending protocol, Rari, and the Fei team was basically trying to functionally screw them over. And um, Olympus and Frax were basically like, "Hey, for the people that vote in favor of this proposal, we will gift like bribe. Bribe is also, I should clarify, a crypto term for paying for votes. It's not the same as in like traditional finance. There's like a pay for proxy vote or whatever is the technical term. It's not actually a bribe, but they would basically pay enough to the token holders involved that it wouldn't hurt their end payout, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Which I think makes a lot of sense. Like the idea that that's unprecedented is kind of stupid. Like that's been done.
Who do you think is gonna win?
I don't know. Someone that I know very closely said that it wouldn't be like the Athena team, and they're like a pretty large validator. They also said it wouldn't be the native team. Um, so I'm really not sure. I think it's genuinely up in the air. I don't think there's like some cabal stuff happening. I don't think it's like there's a preset winner. I think that like the conversations that happened today and the kind of backrooms conversations that all of these protocols are probably going to have with um, that all these protocols are kind of going to have will be very important. I think to an extent, Athena, for whatever reason, has a closer historical relationship with Hyperliquid. Even though they aren't the way that Hyperliquid works, they can't run Athena on Hyperliquid because you can't post BTC as collateral to go short the perp. They've still been very vocal about like they think it's a good team. They like Jeff. They've launched USDE markets on the Hyper EVM. They've been very involved. So I think that it's very likely that Athena could win. I think it's more of a game, but it's more a game between Athena and Maker than anyone else.
I had a guy on the stream not that long ago. He's sick. That guy's a chat.
He's an absolute Chad. Yeah, no, you should not bet against that guy. He's sick.
He was kind of scary, bro. When he first got on, I was a little like, oh fuck. I opened him up a little bit,
He's
pause,
intense.
but he's really intense. Yeah.
Yeah, he's intense. He'll have like his moments where he's like, "Oh, I can like have human reactions to things instead of like kind of robotically being like."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for the background on that. So what do you do now? Like, how do you make money in crypto? What are you working on? Like, what do you
I
do?
I mean, I still do a little bit of trading. I do like 3 big trades a year. Um, we still do kind of like those takeover trades, although they're not as live anymore. We just served someone a while ago. I can't really talk about that,
Okay.
but I think that's an interesting trade. Um, but I mean, I'm working on a project. I think I think an interesting thing to think about in crypto, which a lot of people don't necessarily spend a lot of time on, is how fragmented it is.
Uh-huh.
Not in the sense of like on chain, but like, you know, I don't think anyone really believes that we fast forward 10 years. and Binance has like 100% market share, or Hyperliquid even has 100% market share, or any of these platforms do. It's going to be super split. But if you're a trader and you just care about pricing, there's not a platform that lets you get best price across all of these platforms. Even though, you know, if I asked you, you know, how much Nvidia stock did you buy on, you know, Nasdaq versus the New York Stock Exchange? Although it's not necessary, I don't know if they're listed on both of those exchanges. But as an example, you would be like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
you know, I bought via Robinhood.
Yeah.
Robinhood handles that for you. You know, even if you're a more sophisticated trader, you're trading on Interactive Brokers or Schwab or whatever. Same thing. You're not like being like, oh, I want this order to be placed on Nasdaq. I don't want it to be placed anywhere else. No dark pools. And so we're working on that's what we're kind of working on. We want to be able to do that on just like a very value side. On the other side, it's like trading interfaces haven't changed, you know. Like if you look at a screenshot from 2015 BitMEX and you put it side to side to even like Hyperliquid today, roughly all of it's the same. And I think it's an exciting thing to be able to like rethink, okay, does a trader, you know, if you're a big perps trader, especially, there's a lot of data that you look at. You look at Twitter, first of all, and you know, what's on Twitter, rumors, etc. You look at data on like what's the circulating market cap, what are the unlocks, how much is traded on each exchange. All of that data you have to like get from like 5 different sources on another tab. News you have to get on like all these other tabs. So we're building something around that as well. And we're reimagining how you actually do the orders themselves. Like if you think about it, the fact that the only way you can set an order is like price based is kind of, it doesn't really make sense. Like you're not normally like, sure, there's like some like levels where it's like, okay, if it goes beyond, you know, the all-time high, I should be long, or maybe I'll short a little bit. But beyond that, it's like you want to open a trade based on what the Fed just said they're going to do to rates, or based on like the prediction market rates of if the prediction market rates or implied,
oh, that's
you know,
cool.
Fed decisions. Yeah,
That's
like you can.
that's
So
cool. If
so
50 like rate cut in September goes above like 60%, you want to execute a long on BTC or something.
yeah, because say you can decide our dream idea is like it, depending on how you think about these things. If you think prediction markets are efficient, which I think for a lot of the larger markets they're quite efficient, you can set an order type that's like, hey, if you know, say the chance of a rate cut, I think it's at like 80% right now. Say that changes and suddenly goes to 10 sub 20%. I want to close all my positions. That's terrible, right? You should be able to set an order type that does that in your sleep, right? The fact that you have to be awake and you know what trade you're going to do, but you can't tell your trading platform to execute that trade when it's very easy for all of this data to be processed makes no sense. So that's kind of what we're working on. It should, at like a very high level, it allows you to trade on every major exchange immediately. So say you only have money on Hyperliquid, you want to open a position on Binance and Bybit because say the pair is not available or whatever. Normally that takes 30 minutes to an hour to like process the deposit withdrawal. We can get your order filled, not even like the money transferred, but your order filled in sub a second on those platforms. And we lower fees in general, what you pay, by roughly 80%. On top of also the data and your ability to do these kind of esoteric order types. So that's basically what we're working on.
That's sick. You got the prediction market trade execution. Makes a lot of sense. I don't think I've heard that before.
Yeah, I think it's unique. Yeah, and it's cool because we're not an exchange at all. We just plug into these exchanges. So it gives us a much, it means that we can focus a lot more resources on like first of all, obviously getting you a better price across the exchanges, but also rethinking how you trade
Uh,
and like what you actually need. Whereas like a lot of the exchanges, it's not that they are like complacent or lazy. It's just that they are managing an exchange, and the actual infrastructure of the exchange is really complex, and they have to upkeep it, and they have to do maintenance, and so they might not have time to do these kinds of edits.
when does it launch?
Actually, end of month
Oh,
is
fire.
we're gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna do. We right now have a very closed beta. We're gonna open that beta up by end of month. Um, we're gonna test it out, make sure that everything's working perfectly, and then we're gonna kind of go from there, get more
Word.
users, etc. But basic closed launch is like end of the month.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Hey,
Thanks.
you said you take 3 major trades a year. What do you have right now, if anything?
I mean, I went long, so I guess maybe I should have said that when I was talking about Athena earlier. But I went long ENA a decent amount a while back. I also went long hype a decent amount a while back at around not on the size I should have, but around like 14 on hype. And ENA, I'm not remembering right now, but it was something like 5 or 6. Uh, and yeah, I mean, my thesis is just quite simple. They're both absurd cash generation companies. Um, they're going to do really well. I know, like my old boss at Amber is now at Athena. I thought he was just a killer, and I traded with him as well. And when I heard that, he was always very skeptical about crypto companies and like joining one. And so when I heard he joined Athena, I was like, oh wow. And Hyperliquid, just kind of same thesis. There's this trade I mentioned that was like kind of the private trade, which if it works out, we can kind of 10 to 20x our money on like a few mil,
Whoa.
which would be nice. I do like other random stuff too. I actually own part of a gold mine in Africa, um, just because I don't manage it. Obviously, there's like a guy that manages it. He sends me videos and stuff. Um, but I just find like those kinds of things. The 3 trades are like the trades I'm like focusing on that like will make money. I just find like the gold mine interesting and some other stuff like that interesting. Like
What
I
does
do
that
a lot
even
of
mean?
angel checks as well.
What do you mean you own a gold mine in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, on I'm partners with some guys that do like broker transactions. So like I went to a boarding school in Switzerland. A lot of the guys, it's a very international school. Like in my class alone, there were like 60 kids, 40 languages spoken among the kids, and like 20 nationalities. And so a lot of those guys, since they just know everyone in all these different countries, they like broker like oil contracts or like gold and like these kinds of things. And so I would sometimes get involved or like chat with these guys, and all the gold guys were loaded and kind of retarded. And so I was like, okay, in general, when you see like kind of not the brightest people making a lot of money in something, it's probably interesting to look at. So one of those guys was like, hey, I got a concession for a gold mine. I'm raising some money to like put into it. I think I put like 30-40% of all the money raised. Um, it's like not a crazy mine. It's like, like 4 excavators, like not like insane.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it makes money. It's kind of cool to see. I get to look at the books every once in a while. It gives me indirect exposure to gold, and it's just like those things are like fun to like learn how these things work.
That's awesome. Wow, that's a move. That's insane. Your lore is nuts. It's like some like
Yeah, I
medieval
mean,
like royal family like lore. Like it's crazy.
you got to lore, Max. I mean, I I, I think the craziest thing that happened this year to me in terms of lore was I accidentally, at least in Argentina, kind of helped start the Libra scandal there. Um, I did a post on Twitter because I know I'm in trading, right? So all my buddies were hitting me up like, "Hey, there's going to be this Argentina coin. Have you heard about it?" And I was like, "No, that sounds interesting." But privately, I was messaging people that I know in the government, like, hey, this would be a terrible fucking idea. Like, you should, under no circumstances, do this at all. And they were like, oh, yeah, nah, don't worry about it. No, it's not going to happen. And then, I mean, I had mentioned it before, but like someone told me that they had heard from someone else, so very direct, but that like someone had been paid, but the source was like quite trustworthy. And so I was like, okay, this person's like not really high up in the admin, but you know, they could like basically slip him the tweet and then he doesn't really realize what he's tweeting, and that could be bad. So I messaged a lot of more like heavy hitters that the government would listen to more. And so if you remember, it launched on a really weird day. It launched on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I remember.
On a Friday,
February 14th.
right before
I remember.
the weekend. Yeah. And so yeah, fucking mess. And so immediately, the reason why that happened was because the person that was responsible, this is my understanding, obviously, realized that if we got to Malay through some of the higher up people, which we were about to do at any moment now, the whole thing would be off the table. Like it would be tabled, it wouldn't happen. So they basically like forced it through. And then Malay got a lot of flack. So I was like, okay, I'm going to post on Twitter, explain what happened. I thought most of this was public and I was just like weaving it together for people. Turns out a lot of it was not on Twitter. So I was actually in Argentina at the time. I go to visit, my grandparents are in deep southern Argentina. There's no internet or anything. And then, or at least on the way there, now there's Starlink. So I finally get, it's like 10 hours to get there. I had posted right before 850K views suddenly on the tweet. My account at the time had like 2K followers, right? I'm in every major national news outlet. People are reading the article on television and it's in English, right? And there's one scene where I say exactly what I told you, which is someone told me that someone had told them, so very indirect, that there had been a bribe paid. And that's there in English in the background, right? And then the news reporter says in Spanish, according to Diogenes Casares, the government was paid $5 million. And that's like a total change, right? Like suddenly I'm the source and I said this instead of like me saying I had heard it from some other people. I'm not the direct source. So it was just insane to see like how this got, like it's not on my Twitter anymore because I took it down because I just thought it was getting properly twisted. But yeah, that was a good lesson in when to maybe, you know, proofread something before you angrily write out a tweet, and maybe a lesson in like learning to shut the fuck up.
Wow. That's insane, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah, no, it was nuts. It got dicey. I was getting some threats
I
from
know.
both sides.
Oh yeah.
Like people that are, I'm like relative in general pro Malay. I think what he's trying to do for the country is really good. But a bunch of people were like, "Oh, you're saying all this shit about Malay." I got like relatively accurate death threats of like, "Oh, like, you know, weren't you here last week in Buenos Aires?" And I was like, "Uh-oh." So I've been kind of on the move. I haven't been back for a bit, but I think it's like relatively calmed down now. But yeah, at one point it was scary. Even like a news reporter at one point said, and I quote, you know, we would love to have you on the radio. And I was like, I'm not going to go on any Argentine radio. Because I gave an interview once to one Argentine, or not gave an interview. I like was giving background to a lot of these reporters so they could understand the story. And and I was very clear that it was all off the record. And one of these news reporters fucking took it as an interview and posted the whole thing.
No.
And yeah. And then, you know, translated it a little bit liberally into Spanish. And after that, I was like, you know, I'll go on Laura Shin's Unchained podcast, talk about it, but I'm not going to go on any Argentine media. Because also all the media in Argentina is hyper polarized. Like if you think the US is bad, Argentina is hyper polarized. And the other hard thing is that I genuinely do think that like, yeah, but yeah, back to the, sorry, I got a little sidetracked. The news reporter was basically like, hey, we've been like very nice to you and your family so far and how we report on this. Like that can change basically, which was obviously like a threat. And so I take the call and I'm like, and I, as part of the takeover stuff, we have like really extensive abilities to find out information about people. Um, like I can find your registered addresses for you, and if I have your phone number, I can find roughly where you are within 10 meters.
Oh,
I can do that in almost every country in the world.
dude.
So
Okay.
this guy had just threatened me, and more importantly, which I can handle, but more importantly, it threatened my family, which I have a lot of family in Argentina. So I call. He's being very nice. He mentions the like being very nice to my family thing, and I mentioned the fact that he like that's great. I didn't know your kids went to school in Boston. That's amazing. That's great. That's great that they were able to get into I think it was Northeastern or one of those colleges. And then he just like fucked off. But it was nasty.
Okay. Um, Jesus, dude. What the fuck? That was a little scare. That scared me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff. If you want, I can do like obviously not on stream, but I can do a check of like what I can very easily find for you, and I can tell you how you can hide it. Like most people are just don't have stuff set up in the proper way to be able to avoid like this stuff being used on them. Like luckily we use it entirely mainly to like serve people legal notices or like get evidence for court, etc. But you know, it's not necessarily impossible for these tools to be used by very nefarious people. Like the extreme example is like I can actually, if I know your name and rough information, I can actually find bank account transfer information of like where you've sent money, etc. Um, yeah, so it's like it helps also crypto pill you a lot after you see all of that because you're like all of these systems that you think are like super secure and the government would never give back doors to. There's back doors.
Did you like look up my social before you came on the stream?
I didn't because Law said you were chill. Um, and like it would take a little bit to find out. I mean, I don't know if you're doxxed or not, but I don't know. That's a little bit weird to do.
That was a crazy
I don't
answer that you did it because Law said I was chill. What the fuck?
I don't I like this is just the way I think about things is like you need to like check people. It's crypto. You don't want to like accidentally get into some situation with like someone that's kind of crazy. Um, but
Is that
I
legal
like
to
to be
do
like
that?
careful about that. Most of the yeah, literally almost all of it's entirely
Wait.
it's like
You started out by
so
saying
some
most. You started out by saying most.
so 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 some of the stuff that we do is not legal outside of the US.
Okay.
So like for example, the way we got the guy in China arrested is we have a way to like yeah, we have ways to track you in China, which the Chinese government it's fully illegal as like a private or we don't there's like there's companies that do this. It's not like our own capabilities, but like they can find out this information. That in China is considered illegal. Everything we do in the US is fully legal. You just have to know the right companies, especially in the US, because like all this data can be sold so easily. There's literally like databases of all this where you can just put in phone numbers, email, names, and
Oh
they'll
my
be able to
god.
find like registered addresses, etc.
How do you
Um,
get off of these
yeah,
lists?
I mean, the best way, in my opinion, is like misdirection.
Oh,
Um,
I'm cooked,
if
man.
you understand how these lists work, like sometimes I'll look someone up. Like I'm kind of cooked in these databases too, because one of the annoying things is like, say like, say for example, you're like John Wang, right? That's a relatively common name. right? So in these databases, it's like, which fucking John Wang is this guy,
Okay.
right? Like that's kind of the defense. You've got like 20,000 John Wangs. Are you going to be able to find who it is? Probably not. There's probably only one Diogenes Casares in the world. So I'm pretty cooked when it comes to that. So there's like misdirection. Like if you know how they register an address, register like multiple addresses in different places,
Who's
or in the
they?
same, even in the
Like,
same
who's
place.
registering addresses?
Even like your government, if you've registered in like a government registry most of the time, and like the property is recorded as being owned by you, or like you're recorded as being a leaseholder, most of that data is then able to be
Gotcha.
legally collected and put into these databases.
Got it.
Most of the time, if you're on a lease or something like that, that's like not a normal lease, or not on your driver's license, etc., that doesn't show up in the public databases. But yeah.
I'm gonna have to call you after stream, dude. I'm like scared.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. And in the sense that like my like approach to this is like you should always assume that someone can find you. Like during the China case, um, the guy or like someone close to the guy started sending me photos. Um, Started sending me photos of me in my apartment, which is on like the 18th floor in
No.
a building in New York.
No.
And he's like, and so for like a month, I had like all the blinds drawn. Um, it's scary, but as soon as you kind of accept, you should like kind of. It's also liberating in the sense that like it's it's kind of nice to like think about like, hey, if you ever like do anything wrong, people can come after you, and in a way that like really changed. I mean, to an extent, I was kind of a fucker with the meme coins and stuff. Like I think like I got probably really bad juju, even though I was just helping launch them. I wasn't actually involved in pushing them, etc. So I think that like it's actually for me been like a good reflection on like how to think about life, because all it takes is like properly pissing off. If you ruin like one person's life and they're like dedicated enough, that could low key be it. So how do you optimize your life from not ruining people's life and providing value to people? Maybe that's like the cynical approach, but yeah, I don't think that's as comforting to you as it is to me, judging by your reaction. But
So what does this mean for the market cap of Pump Fund? It's like, fuck.
yeah, yeah. I mean, pump is a cool pump. I feel like is interesting because it's kind of stuttering a little bit
Uh-huh.
compared to like ENA and Hyperliquid. The timing that they did the token was also not as great. But I mean, I just wouldn't bet. Um, I'm buddies with this guy, Dim Selk. He's a trader now at Selene, but he's one of the best traders I know. And he met both of the founders IRL, and remembers them being like really smart, but like not fully sure on like what they were going to be able to do. And he just basically in like 1 year, they went from like kind of understanding crypto to just grinding and getting pumped. And I think that like most of the people that do something like that, especially when it's so user focused, you can't really turn that off. It's not like, oh, I made this amount of money, I'm done. I think that what they're trying to do with streaming is really interesting.
Yeah.
And they're working on a bunch of other stuff as well. So just token price. The whole launch was also crazy in the sense that like um, no major exchanges got any pump tokens for their traders. I think that's insane. That was like the biggest blunder of the cycle potentially. Um, yeah.
So I asked Law who I should bring on. He said you, which is a movie suggestion. Who do you think that I should bring on?
I think Dim, who I just
Who's
mentioned, is
Dim? Who's
probably really
Dim?
good. He's Dim. He's like kind of quiet.
What's his Twitter?
I low key don't know.
Maybe send to me
Yeah, yeah,
after.
Dim Selk. Yeah, yeah. I'll send it to you after. But he was on Steady Lads
Oh,
a
word.
bit ago. Yeah, like he's quite. He's a really good trader. He's quite intelligent about a lot of these things. He's really thoughtful. I think I would like consider him a very, I guess the best way to term it is probably like an intentional guy,
Word.
if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think he would be great. He has a very different perspective as well from like, I specifically did like basis trading mostly, and then the takeover kind of distress trades. He does more like macro and other trades. Like he caught stories.
That one's crazy.
Yeah. Like he caught like all. He just realized is like so tapped into all of these trades, and he just understands it fully, if that makes sense. So I think he would be interesting to have.
This was a movie, dude. I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea what to expect. You're a movie. I gotta like, we have to have like a call, dude. I need like,
Bro, I'd be down. I can help you out with the security stuff as well.
yeah. Let me know if
Like
I can help you out
I
with anything, cause
I did this for my dad even, like just to like make him feel comfy. Because now, he's been in crypto so long, he has a lot of Bitcoin. He has to think about security. Yeah, but yeah, I'd be down. Thanks a lot for having me. This was fun. I don't normally get on like an interview where I feel like I'm having fun on the interview.
I
It kind of normally feels like a little bit of a drag.
I want you to know that I am very deeply grateful that you had fun. Is there anything you want to sign off with? Anything like you wanted to say that I didn't ask you about? Any like, I don't know, prediction, hot take, anything you want to leave with?
um, I think an interesting, yeah, that's a good ender. I think something interesting that a lot of people have kind of slightly mentioned but haven't really thought about deeply is perps are probably going to become legal in the US within like the next year or two, definitely within this administration. There's just the incentives are there, right? World Liberty Financial is live and has a perp. Trump coin has a perp. And, you know, just like on the personal side, outside of that, like I think perps are such an interesting and like way more intuitive product than fucking options. Anyone that tells you that the average retail trader understands the Greeks, which determine like option pricing, is fucking lying to you. It'd be like saying it's equally as like naive as saying like, oh, every single retail trader understands differential calculus. Of course they do. Like it's just incredibly misleading. I think the interesting thing for a lot of people will be to think, even just in like personal terms, what does perps becoming legal open up in terms of like a design space of like, are there now going to be also equity perps? The NASDAQ also even just announced that they're going to tokenize stock, right? I think the natural thing is that a lot of these clearinghouses for derivatives in the States might start operating equity like perps in the US in a more regular or a more compliant way. So it's going to be, I think that's an interesting thing to think about. And I think that like it should make people reevaluate how they think the space will be split, because a lot of companies, their alpha might be Reg Arb, or the fact that they are the only ones operating in the US right now, etc. And like and now the US is saying that, CFTC said that there's a path for Binance, OKX, and Bybit to operate in the US, which I think is great, because I think a lot of the US exchanges are not that great. Coinbase is atrocious. So I think that that's kind of one that affects trades, but also in your like in your personal life, it probably means that like you can probably within 1 or 2 years as an American set up a Bybit, Binance, OKX account. It's quite interesting. And yeah, I also wanted to thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Diogenes, it's a pleasure, man.
Thank you, man.
You're a fucking
Have a good
unit,
one.
dude. That was crazy. Thanks for coming. We need to talk about some things after.
We'll do. We'll do.
Thanks, bro.
All right.
Have a good one, dude. I appreciate you. Peace.
Have a good one.